$4.5 million raised in 5 days during one of our recent challenges by one student, and another one right behind him with $3.5 million in 4 days. So if you are wanting to raise capital, do not do it until you watch this video, because one of great industry leaders in capital raising through LinkedIn visited our community, and this is one of the major strategies we taught during a 5-day capital raising challenge for our students. And I am about to just share this with you. It was so powerful. I wanted to just share it and see how much value you get, see how much people can raise just from watching this video. So if you're excited about that, Mr. Anthony Simone is going to be dropping in. I'm going to add the recording of that event right here. This is going to be an in-depth training on using LinkedIn to grow and to get a lot of capital for deals to come. Okay, so if you want to make millions, you want to raise millions of dollars, watch this video and stay to the end. I'm going to be giving away a secret. If you want to know what the secret is, it's going to help you in your capital raising journey. Stay to the end of this and I'm going to drop it. All right, so check it out. We'll see you then.
Here's why LinkedIn is so powerful and why you've got to take advantage of it right now if you're not. For those of you that like graphs and data, this just shows the growth curve of LinkedIn membership over the past decade or so. It's steep. And so many people are going over to the platform to use it. And the same is true for people searching for the term LinkedIn. So what that means is that, you know about LinkedIn, but if you're not over there leveraging it and mining the gold out of it, you're missing a lot. Couple more stats for you here. So out of the major platforms, the social platforms out there, LinkedIn this is from HubSpot, by the way, but on average is 300% higher for B2B businesses than those other platforms. So that's what you all are doing. You're looking for other business professionals. You're looking for higher net worth people. And so LinkedIn is a great place for that. And you can target people all the way down to the companies, their roles, their titles, and their job descriptions. And so it's really the only place you can go to get a multi-layered approach without having to pay for advertising. And even paid advertising these days, it's hard to get to those kind of selects, if you will. 4 out of 5 people are business are decision makers on the platform. And the one here that is really interesting is you look at the 73% of buyers, that little line there. So 73% of buyers said they're more likely to consider a brand if the salesperson reaches out via LinkedIn. So remember when I said LinkedIn has this inherent trust already built up? That's what I'm talking about. So when you are just on the platform and you're treating people the right way, you can't help but to get leads and conversations going and get people to come over to you. And this is also interesting. So for the people that always say, well, my people are super, high status, they're not over on LinkedIn. They're not doing that kind of stuff. Well, this is data from LinkedIn's analytics from behind the scenes. And it shows that the higher net worth individuals have 2 times more connections and they check their email 84% more often. So this is why it's important to be in front of them on the platform. And this was interesting too. So this showed that 71% of these higher net worth individuals, they weren't yet connected to a financial advisor or wealth manager. So what that means is that your content, if it's related to this, which it is, you're going to stand out more. When you're out there engaging with people, you're going to stand out more because they're not, it's just it's kind of it's wide open right now. And a side benefit to LinkedIn, this is important too, because the search engine gods, if you will, they love LinkedIn, and they've got what is called a near perfect Moz domain score. And all that means to us as a lay person is that your LinkedIn profile, if you have one, is going to show up on the first page of Google when somebody searches your name. And so because people do business with people, they don't do business with companies, right? They do business with people. They're going to look you up. And when they Google you, your LinkedIn profile is going to show up on the first page and oftentimes in the very first position. So the reason why that's important is that you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile shows that the lights are on in your business. So if somebody's, and by the way, they don't just come from LinkedIn. When you go to a conference and you're networking, they're going online and they're Googling you. So no matter where they're coming from, you want that to show up in the best light because LinkedIn is known as a professional business person platform. And so if you're showing up any less than that, it can kind of work against you, if that makes sense. And then finally, nobody's really scrolling past silly your business information that's valuable to get to wedding photos or cat videos. Like people, they have business on the brain, and that's something really important to realize, because on other social media platforms, oftentimes you got to break through that kind of psychology with them. Like there's a barrier there you got to get through that you don't have to get through over on LinkedIn. Now, here's a rule I want you to write down, because this is super important, and we found it to be true across many years and many verticals, and that is the 60-30-10 rule. What that means is that 60% of the success of your marketing is going to be being in front of the right audience. 30% is going to be how you position your offer. So how is it structured? Is it telling the right story? Is it compelling? 10% is going to be how did they absorb it? Was it from a webinar? Was it from a post? Was it from a Zoom chat? Whatever it might be. So 60-30-10. And this is important too, because if you think about, let's say you're doing any marketing anywhere else, you're paying for advertising. Advertising can be a lot. It can be a pretty large cost depending on what you're doing. What this allows you to do is this: let's say you're either running advertising now or you're thinking about it. You can go over to LinkedIn. You can get right in front of the right audience, right? You can go directly to who you're trying to search for and get right to them. So you got the right audience. You have a good offer. Now you've got, another box checked. And then you've got, you're effectively doing it through like a webinar, whatever your post is, that structure. But now you're building a list of people that are really a good fit for you. So if you take that list of people and go over to Facebook, or you're going to go buy other media somewhere, what it does is it saves you money up front, because usually the first part of buying advertising is collecting data. You're just trying to collect data, try to refine it down to who you're trying to target. And that also holds true for a pixel. Let's say, Facebook's like pixels that learn all this stuff. It cuts down the learning curve. And all that means is that you're going to save money on all of your other, your marketing, or your ROI is at least going to be higher, because you know who you're going to target, right? All right. So there are 4 key components when we talk about LinkedIn to deploy so that you can win. The first thing is going to be to optimize your profile. Maybe you've heard that before, but it's very, very important to focus on your whole profile. But in the beginning, at least focus on these few things here. And that's the cover image, your profile picture, your headline, and your about section. I'm going to go deeper into this here momentarily. And then we want to target your ideal prospects. So that's going to be through second-degree campaigns, industry groups, and events. And then you want to build value with a conversion mechanism. So what's that? That's like a webinar, or something that gives them insight and allows them to opt in or attend the webinar, or book a call, something to convert them from somebody that isn't in your list or in your world to being in your world or on your list. And then you want to continue that conversation outside of LinkedIn. You want to do that through email or phone calls or direct mail, whatever you're going to do. That's where the magic happens, because you're going to have a small percentage of people, they might raise their hand sooner for a deal. But unlike other marketing people, I'm not going to blow smoke and say everybody's going to convert through this process right up front, because they're not. I just told you earlier, right? We're in a trust recession. And even if we're not in a trust recession, most people need a little while to get to know who you are, what you're doing, and all that kind of stuff to build that trust. And so that's where all the follow-up emails, the nurturing emails, and all those things that you're going to do can be leveraged and to move the needle for you more. And what you're doing at the end of the day is you're building an owned traffic source. So instead of leaving them on LinkedIn, you're taking it from LinkedIn into your database. Why? Because you own that database. So if LinkedIn ever changes their terms of service, which they do from time to time, Facebook's drastically changed theirs, right? You can't even, the messaging over there is really hard to, even leverage on the platform anymore, because they limit it so much. But point is that they can and probably will change at some point. So you want to make sure that you are owning that database. And then what we use is it's an acronym we call CEC, and that stands for Connect, Engage, and Convert. So connecting is where you're going to start the outreach process. And then when you engage with them, you're going to do that through chat, and not just any old way to converse with somebody, but like, what can you do to deliver value? It's always value up front. So think in terms of like something that you can give away through a PDF or a webinar or a guide, something that could bring insight to that audience. And I'll tell you, checklists and guides, also podcast episodes, if you're on podcast episodes that deliver insight, those do really well on LinkedIn to get people to raise their hand. So all you're trying to do there is deliver value, get them to opt in, right? So to engage in that conversation, maybe be willing to book a call over after that point, or to get on a webinar. And again, that goes into the convert process. So that's where we're adding them to the CRM so they can receive nurture emails, calling them. I'm surprised, that a lot of people in this day and age, they don't call their people. But man, I would highly suggest picking up the phone and calling your people, especially your investors. Just that, call them, right? Because they don't get that often anymore. And then offering them webinars and making other offers. And I put this little note here because it's worthy of mentioning, and that is that email has changed a lot in the past 6 months. So there's more regulation on email. The rules have changed. And so you just got to be aware that when you're writing your emails, please, please, please do not go to Chat GPT. And I'm sorry if this offends anybody here, but, and I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but if you're going to Chat GPT and you're having it write emails for you, and that's the emails you're using, and you're not a copywriter, you don't understand what good copy is, then what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure. Because if you're not building affinity, rapport, and you're looking like everybody else, now you've got a problem. People stop opening your emails, more your emails start going to spam. And the more that happens, the more you damage your domain reputation. Once you damage your domain reputation, it's going to cost you a lot. We are fixing so many people's email right now. One of my partners is really super talented with this. So we're fixing a lot of people's emails. Some people knew that they had a spam issue, but many of them didn't. We just went in because we were going to work with them, and we always check stuff because we don't want to ever damage anybody's reputation. So we always do some diagnostics, and many times we're finding that people have an issue they didn't know about, but what it's doing is costing them in revenue because their emails are not reaching their people they think they are. So I just want to say that because it's worthy of looking at if you're doing any amount of emailing. Okay, so I say all that to say the key is to keep that conversation going, right? You want to build trust and stay top of mind and harvest when they're ready. But again, it's all about building that relationship. Now, here's one of my favorite ways about leveraging LinkedIn, what we do a lot of, and that is to create strategic partnerships with our clients and other people. So that we have an acronym for that we call BOPA, and that's borrow other people's audiences. Now, I didn't come up with that, but I swiped it from somewhere, but it makes sense. So I'm not taking credit for that, just in case anybody's aware of that. But you get massive leverage with this. And this is because there's so many people on LinkedIn that have an audience that your people are in, or some of your people are in, that you can just simply reach out to them, start a conversation, build a relationship with them, and get your stuff in front of their audience. There's a lot of people that look for valuable content. So for example, if you're educating somebody on, multifamily investing, there's a lot of people right now, believe it or not, I see conversations every day, like lots of them. There's a lot of people out there, dentists, doctors, engineers, they don't know the real difference between passive and active investing. They don't know that. So something is just crazy simple like that to educate them on is valuable to them, but also sharing all the other insight that you have with them too, because they're looking. I can tell you that too. Everybody's looking for somewhere to make sure that their money's safe or to grow it. And so you're basically entering a conversation that's already going on in their head. So I'm saying that because this is a way to get in front of many people at one time. So it's like one to many approach. And this screenshot on the right here, that's an actual client. So Jamie's a CPA client of mine. And this was a conversation that we generated between him and somebody else, and we ran this whole thing. But this person came back and said that they're selling a couple businesses and they're going to have like $8 million or something like that. And they want to start placing it into syndications. So I would ask you, do you think that it's valuable for you to have relationships with those types of people. I mean, you could be their guy or gal that they're like, hey, I have somebody for you. I know somebody can help you with that. And it becomes very easy to get those referrals because I can tell you this, people trust their CPAs implicitly. And some of them, I don't think they should, but, it goes without saying, they just have this certain level of trust. Everybody still with me? Good. All right. Here's another example of that. These are conversations for clients that just kind of give you an idea of what's out there. This guy on the left, he's one of the he's part of an association that has 137,000 members, and his whole job is looking for really great deals to put in front of his audience. Again, another great contact to have. The one in the middle, this person's got a platform of 30,000 investors. The one on the right, 600,000 investors. These are people that have showed interest in working with our clients based off a simple, valuable, just what I'm showing you here, just a valuable conversation, valuable experience. And getting in front of them, you can imagine how fast that could grow your database, right? It's pretty awesome. We also do a lot of podcast bookings. So I don't know if any of you are doing podcasts, but there's a lot of podcast hosts on LinkedIn, and you approach them the right way and you've got value to deliver, they're looking for you. They'd happily have you on their podcast. All right. So we talked about the cover image and the profile photo and the headline. So the reason why that cover image is important is because we know that people remember about 20% of what they read and 80% of what they see. So any of your imagery, whether it be on LinkedIn or Facebook or your website, you want to think about this, because what we are very adamant about doing is conveying who we are and what we do in a very short period of time, because you go like 33 milliseconds before somebody has a judgment of you as to whether you're trustworthy or not, right? So you got to be intentional about this. So for me, I want people to know that I'm a family person. My family values are at the center of everything that I do. And I know that if somebody sees that and it turns them off, they may not be my person, right? Because I want to work with you for a long period of time. This isn't like a cash grab situation. This is like, hey, it's a relationship. So if we don't have similar values, it's always kind of short lived. Not that that person's insignificant. It's just that we're different, right? Not wrong, we're just different. And so I'm okay with somebody walking away based on that. And by the way, good marketing will push those people away, but it'll pull other people closer to you that would be a fit. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And for that reason, I also have a quote. I'm a very big fan of quotes, mainly because people read them. Like, it draws your eyes to what's inside the quotes. And for me, this is what I feel is most important. So it's people and results, the two things that matter most. So for you, if you have something similar or something you can come up with, you can put it on here, right? And you see the picture of, like, that's Austin. That's downtown Austin. I live in Austin, Texas. And so I like that as part of the background. And sometimes I'll switch the background out and keep it fresh. But nonetheless, it's important. If you're speaking in front of a group, you could have pictures that show you speaking in front of a group to create an element of social proof, that kind of stuff. And that's the cover image. And if you need to have your cover image created, everybody knows a Canva these days, right? You can use so many different tools now to make these images. Back in the day when I first started sharing Canva, everybody's mind was blown. They're just like, oh my gosh, that tool is amazing. But now they've got commercials on Hulu, so everybody knows about them. But they've got formatted templates. You can go over there, drag and drop, create your cover image. The next area is that profile photo. So this is one that most people just completely overlook. They don't think it's significant, but it really is. Because remember, we're talking about technology advancing very quickly these days. And so with that, and with AI, people are now looking at people and going, okay, are you real? Are you authentic? Have you seen the commercial yet? Now there's commercials already where they pick up the phone and they're like, hey, prove to me that you're not AI. And the other person's like, hey, no, you prove to me that you're not AI, right? And it's just like this battle. It's back and forth. So you can do yourself a favor by having a photo that looks like you now. I see a lot of photos still to have, does anybody here old enough to remember glamour shots? Glamour shots were like the thing, and they were awesome. The problem is that that was like in the 90s. So everybody knows that you don't look like that these days. And so the more you can do these little things like this, they add up, they compound, just like compound interest. These little things, they add up over time and they give you a big result. And it's like a tiny hinge that swings a big door. So have a picture that looks like you. For me, I always leverage my wife because everybody always tells me, man, Anthony, you married up. Do you know that? And I'm always like, yes, I know that. And it's crazy because I've had people stop me in webinars and go, hey, do you realize that you married out of your league? And I'm like, seriously? I'm like, we're in the middle of a webinar here. And it's just the wildest thing. But I use it because not because of that necessarily so much as to just show people that again, I, I'm a married man. I care about my wife. I care about my family. And it's not just about the money for me. Like the money is the byproduct. It really is. Like I'm here to serve. And and I want that message to come across clearly. Make sure that they can see your eyes, make sure you're smiling. I've had people tell me, Anthony, I'm not going to smile. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work very well for you, you know? And, there's subtle things like that that they make a big, big difference. So that's your profile photo. And you could, goodness, you can take this thing right here and you can take a picture of yourself. So very simple to do. The next area is your headline. So right below my name, you'll notice there's an area text there. It's a very important area because as you start reaching out to people, one of the first things they're going to see is they're going to see your picture, your profile photo, and your headline. So it makes sense, right? To like come across as authentic and in the best light possible. So we want to grab their attention a little bit. And so let me just talk through this headline and why I chose to do it this way, because it's all strategic. You see the emoji, right? With the hand or the finger pointing to the right. The reason why I do that is because it's hard to not look where something's pointing. So if I was in front of you and we're hanging out and I pointed up, you'd probably look up. And also, we as humans here in the United States, we read left to right. So because we read left to right, I want to guide them. These are busy people, right? So I want to guide them. And then I use an acronym. The acronym also is to keep your eye. So mine is, I kind of play with it a little bit, right? It's like more personalized. It's CGO, right? A lot of people put CEO, that's fine. But I put CGO, Chief Giving Officer. Then I'm like investor, personalize it more, investor, loving dad, and adoption advocate. And then I hit them with what I know they want. And that is unique processes, attracts, wins, retains the right prospects while increasing referrals consistently and predictably. And then I don't stop there because remember, these people are busy. So what do you want them to do next? You want them to look below. Because all I'm trying to do here is now is get them to go from checking me out to spending more time with me. And the reason why I do that is because I had a mentor teach me many years ago. It's like, you know what? I've never had anybody first give me their money before they gave me their time. Right? At time is where you build that trust, that relationship. And so everything that we do here is strategically done. And so that's your headline area. And you want to have it be, and by the way, in that guide, I have like some formulas you can use for the headlines. But I mean, let me just give you an example. I've got a client that turned partner and he was like the king of ATMs. And so his is KOA, King of ATMs, and he's in the multifamily niche. And so his is helping friends and busy professionals achieve financial freedom through alternative investments. See below. So his is very simple. And we've played with his and changed his, many different times. But the key is just make sure you have something that's attractive. They'll get them to come over, check you out, and spend some time with you. After you have that, now you work into your about section. The about section is really where you have a chance to sell who you are, not from like a hypey or slimy type of a sales approach, but just who are you? What do you do? What's the problem you solve? Why do people work with you? Who do you work with? And so if you look at mine, and you're welcome to swipe mine and plug your stuff in, or you'll be able to find clients that I've worked with and check them out too. But if you look at mine, there's some specific things to pay attention to. One is you see all the white space. It's intentional. I put all the white space between the text, and it's not bunched together. And that's because copywriting, if you know the copywriting rules, um, that white space increases readership. It's more pleasing to the eye. So um, I include that white space. I also have shorter, punchy sentences. Why? Because they will be read. They're more likely to be read. And so those are all set up in that way. And then if you look at the content of it, the very first thing I say is, I know you're busy. So I'll give you the short version of what I do, 120 seconds or less, if that's okay. A question mark there is because I know that it's almost impossible for our brains to ignore a question. So I know these people are also busy. It's like, think about, like, so Jonathan, if we were just kind of hanging out and we ran into each other and say, hey, how you been, Jonathan? You might say, a lot of people say, man, I've been just real busy, right? Like real busy. It's just what we do. And so I'm addressing that up front because I know they're on LinkedIn. I know they probably are a busy professional, and I know that's how people operate. So I'm just acknowledging it. And that earns me more time. So I'm earning their permission each way as they read. And I'm also handling the stuff like, hey, what is it that I do? How do we work together? But I don't say it in a way like, hey, you should just give me your money. It's telling a story, if you will. Does that all make sense? I know I'm throwing a whole bunch of stuff out there, and some of it maybe you're familiar with, maybe it's new to you, maybe it's not new. Maybe you're going, Anthony, I know all this, but I just want to make sure that I'm not confusing anybody and that you're getting value from it. Good. Okay, let's talk about some other cool stuff. So once you have that dialed in, that's like your foundation, right? You're going to build a foundation on rock versus sand. Now it's like, okay, how do you get to the people you want to work with? So I'm just going to show you one example here, but you can type in dentist, you could type in whoever you work with. Like yesterday, I did a webinar, and this guy told me he was targeting pilots. And so I never actually looked for that. So live, I was looking at this and I was going, I got to check this out. And come to find out, there's a whole bunch of pilots on LinkedIn. And so it was cool to see that because, it's like your eyeballs just light, you slide up and your eyes are just get wide and like, wow, huge opportunity. But for this, you could type in whoever it is. So the first thing we do is type in real estate investor. And what we get is 147,000 results. That's everybody that identifies or has real estate investor in their profile. And then all we have to do to connect with them is click that connection button. And I would recommend to include a personalized message with that. Because as soon as you click the connect button, it's just going to have a window pop up and it's going to have a little field, and you could write a little message. What a lot of people do is they put 3 or 4 paragraphs about how cool they are and why you should give them money. And maybe y'all see that on your LinkedIn. Don't do that. This is very simple. Find something good to say about them and say it. It's like how to win friends and influence people. Go look at an article they wrote. Go look at a post they put up, or go look at their website. You can go easily find that stuff, but it'll work really well for you when you do it. Now, the next thing you can do is you take that same search and you can find any groups where those people are hanging out. So you've got all the people that you search for, you could directly reach out to through like a second degree campaign. But then you've got groups. The groups are where it gets a lot of fun because after you exhaust that, the direct outreach there, you go join a group. And so here, real estate investors, you see there's one here, Pete Asmus, 612,000, right? That's a lot more than 147,000, right? So now we're going to people that are real estate investors, but they just don't list it on their profile, right? So this is a workaround to get to them. Once you join that group, you can go over to that area where it says show all. And once you click on that, now you can go directly and reach out to each person in that group if you want. And I'll tell you the cadence and that kind of stuff here momentarily. But I just want to show you how simple it is to be able to go into a group and reach out to people that could be your ideal person. And you know what's cool about this is that immediately you have some synergy. Remember, you got the trust that LinkedIn already has built in. And now you got some synergy because you're in the same group. So what do you think would be a good way to reach out to those people? Well, you probably already figured out, like mention the group, right? We're both part of this group. So I thought, hey, we might have some synergies. Would you be open to a short chat about how we might collaborate at some point down the road? Again, I'm not talking about anything that I do or how I help them. It's all conversational relationships. Okay, so once you have those two things kind of going, so you've got the groups, you've got your other outreach. There's another opportunity that a lot of people just don't know about. So I'm gonna share it with you. We call it event arbitrage. And that is where we're gonna go and we're gonna find events. And again, you could just type in that same search, real estate investing, click on events this time instead of groups or people. So you go to events, and now you're going to find real estate investing events. You're going to have multifamily. You're going to have people talking about tax strategy, all those kinds of things where your people are likely to be hanging out. They've already raised their hand. So when you go into that, this is an example of one. You go in, you see this one had 82 attendees. Well, you can't see who those attendees are until you click to attend. So once you click to attend or register, now you can click on that 82 people and it opens up that window to the right, you see. And now you can connect with each one of those people. So if you think about that, is everybody kind of picking up what I'm throwing down there? Like why that's so powerful? It's because they've already raised their hand for something similar. So it's very likely that they'd be interested in your event or your thing that relates to that. You're shortcutting that process. Okay, so that was kind of like using the free version of LinkedIn, like searching for LinkedIn. Now, if you want to take it another step further, you can get Sales Navigator, and Sales Navigator is where you can go deeper. You can have more selects. You can kind of refine your search and get to people just a little bit deeper. And so this is an example of that. So this is a search inside of my Sales Navigator, and it includes groups. So it's what I'm doing is I'm going after CEOs with at least 3 years in business or in that current position. And then privately held company headcount 11 to 200. And then years of experience, 6 to 10 years, and then in the United States. So what this does, if I save that search, what it does is it allows me to first pull that list of people, just kind of like I did and showed you in the beginning, where I typed in real estate investor, you had all those people, 147,000. This delivers a similar list, but on these criteria. So the reason why that's important is because now we're going to see people again that are not identifying as real estate investors, but are interested in real estate because they're in that group. And we know that they're probably making some good money because they have all these other criteria selected. And then what's cool about this is not only do you have that list, but now you have it saved. LinkedIn's really great about now adding new people to that list for you as you go. So you look here on the left there, it shows just examples of like LinkedIn adds new people there based on that criteria. So now it's just like go in every day, hit those new people, and move on. Does that all make sense? Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about messaging cadence. So the first day is going to be a connection request. One day after that, and this is just one of the cadences we use, but it can be good for you too. So connection request, one day after the acceptance. So once they've accepted, we send them a value message. That value message includes like a PDF or a guide, just to gain an email address so that we can get them into our database. So it's value. It's like, hey, you might find this to be helpful. I created this thing. It looks like you're interested in this type of stuff. Would be happy to send it to you, no strings attached. See, it's very non-threatening. Like I'm not talking about how great I am or, how much money that we're going to make together or anything like that. It's a very conversational, simple offer. When I say yes, now we get the email address and they're in our database, right? We continue that conversation relationship either on LinkedIn or on email or both. I recommend doing both. 2 days later, we'll offer to send them to a webinar. So if you think about, like, say you have a guide and it's about a certain topic, but then you have a webinar that includes that topic, but it expands further. If they said yes to the guide, they're probably going to say yes to the webinar, right? So then we get them onto the webinar. And then after the event or after the webinar, we follow up to keep them engaged and either book appointments or If they haven't opted in yet, compel them to opt in. And by the way, I want to mention something about follow up because I think I'd be remiss if I didn't. Almost everybody is really bad at follow up. And it blows my mind because the statistics show that if somebody raises their hand for an offer today, they're somewhere between today and 18 months from pulling the trigger. And half of the people out there, they stop following up after just one attempt. So what does that tell you? That tells you if you follow up just 2 times, you're better than half the people out there, better than half your competition. If you keep following up, you're going to be the person that stays top of mind as long as you're bringing insight, right? Not just emailing them just to email or contact them just to contact them, but you're bringing value. You're going to be top of mind, and you're going to probably be the one that they pull the trigger with if you're doing those things right. And then continuous follow up. Yeah, just announcing new offers, always providing that value along the way. And I think that goes without saying by now. I'm kind of kicking the horse that's already down there, but okay, so here's the best practice for outreach. So most people think that LinkedIn has a 20 connection request limit per day. And that's because they kind of put that out there. I know somebody on the inside, and that person showed me a way to more than double that. And that's just for one campaign. That doesn't include groups or events or anything like that. This is taking your 20 per day and getting it raised up to 45. And here's how you do it. You start with 5, and then every 48 hours, you increase it by 5. So 5 today, 5 the next day, 10 on the third day, 10 on the fourth, and then you're slowly moving up to 45. And so pretty soon you got 45 going out every day just on that one campaign alone. Then you couple in groups. So sending out, 100 or so group outreach messages a day. Don't start with that. I'd start with, probably the same kind of 5, 10, because you don't want to get flagged, right? If you haven't done all this stuff the way that I'm showing you and you just go in guns blazing, you're probably going to get flagged. But if you do it like this and take a little bit of time to build that natural pattern of behavior, you all do just fine. So 100 invites a day for event. So when you do your own events, so if you're gonna use the event feature, you saw the events that I showed you. You can go target the other people's events. You could do your own events too, and we do a lot of them. Like if you've got a deal and you've got a pitch deck and you want to do a webinar about that deal, you could do that. I'm a very big fan of in between deals doing educational webinars. I highly encourage you to do that. Teach people about what you're doing, teach them the insight, talk about tax strategy, bring other people on to do webinars with them, and just stay in front of them, continue to build that audience. And then just keep up with all of the responses, because when you start getting this running, there's going to be a lot going on. And so now the challenge is going to be, how do you keep track of it? And so you just want to stay on top of it. And then just rinse and repeat. I wanted to give you all something here that you can test out. It's a framework that we use a lot. We call it a hand raiser post. And this one did really well. And this was, I think it got like 246 people to comment or something like that. But we do this kind of stuff a lot because it gets people engaged and it's give them something of value. So this one, my CPA partner is creating a cheat sheet on how to pay zero taxes, invest in real estate. Who wants a copy, right? You can use that in some way or form. It will work for you. If you got an email database, try it. As long as you've got something like that, right? I mean, if you got something else, you obviously you want to change that. But if you've got that exact thing, or you've got a guide that you can have created that talks about that, you can use it. But you're going to get responses. And by the way, if you send that out by email, one of the best things you could do for your email domain reputation is get people to respond every now and again, reply to your emails. And this is a good way to do that because it sends a message to the email quote gods that your stuff is valuable to people, that they're willing to engage with it. All right, because here's what not to do. I told you a lot about what to do. Here's what not to do. So this message came to me, and it's the first exchange I've ever had with this person. And this person said, what would have to happen for you to consider changing accounting firms? And I can't, the minute I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, what can I do to get you in this car today, Mr. Simone? That's what I heard when I read that the first time. And you just can't do that. Don't be that person, right? You want to deliver value, be conversational. This was right out of the gate. Hey, do you want to get married? This is one that had to do with a multifamily investment opportunity. Again, first message. I sincerely hope that this person is not on this call. I did scratch out the name to protect the innocent, but it's not that this is bad. We're just way too early in a relationship. This is a very first exchange. So just be careful of that because, again, numbers are great, but the savvy investors, it's not just the numbers, right? It's a lot of other things. And you just want to pay attention to that. It's like telling a story about the numbers can change things for you in dramatic ways too. It's like, okay, the numbers are why did you decide to go with this? What is the story behind it? People remember stories. Again, small hinge to swing a huge door for you. And this is a great example of not underestimating the power of personalization. So this is Rob Deerdick. He's an ex-professional skateboarder. And I like to share this because it shows that when you focus on what's important to other people, really great things could happen. So this was a tribute that he did for his wife, I think on their 10th anniversary. But here's how they met. He actually reached out in a DM, and she was trying to save dogs at a local shelter. So he's like, hey, why don't we use my helicopter and we can get the word out? And he was focusing on what was important to her. And then all of a sudden, they've got a relationship, and now 10 years later, they're celebrating their 10th, wedding anniversary. So I just say all that to say, what can you do to personalize things? Because you're going to stand out, and you're certainly going to stand out from everybody else that's doing Chat GPT stuff. Promise you. I'm not saying don't use Chat GPT for certain things like research, but don't rely on it too heavily. Because at this point, it's not there yet. And again, this is something that was shared with me a long time ago by a mentor, and I like to share it because this always reminds me, success moves at the speed of relationships. It's so true. And every time we try to shortcut that, it sets you back.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. We have a major secret, like I promised. We are going to be giving away a script for your capital raising on LinkedIn to supplement what you just learned. So if you want the script, type script below in the comments, and we will get that over to you ASAP. All right, God bless.